Now, we died to it, and this is something where you're dying to it a lot, right?
Yeah.
So what we should be looking at whenever you're struggling with anything in StarCraft, and you know, take a look at your document, is okay, well, what's going on in our play in this situation? Like, what basically, no, tripping over my own tongue. Essentially what we want to do is we want to ask ourselves a series of questions. How do I spot this? So what are the tells? Here's number one. The next one would be, what's my response? And we want every little detail. Do we change our gas timings? Do we change our upgrade timings? When do we start building units exactly? How many drones do we stop at? You know, all that sort of stuff. We want to have all this. And actually writing it down, basically in the same format I'm doing in your document right now. And once we answer these questions, this is the same for anything that's like just giving you grief in StarCraft, is if we can ask these questions, how do I spot it? What's my response? And then it's just like, what extra positioning or micro can I do, right? So the response should mostly be macro stuff, like when do you build units stuff, right?
Yeah.
Often when I say this, people aren't as organized with this as someone like me who's been playing for so many years, right? Where I'm like, okay, what's the response? Economically, where do I stop droning? When do I start building units? At how many units do I feel super comfortable and I can go back to droning even if the pressure or the fight hasn't happened yet? Yada, yada. And then it's like, okay, but what about positioning and micro? And then we say, okay, well, you know, like we should have units here to spot where it's coming from. We should make sure our queens engage first and then our lings come in. We shouldn't go off creep. If they pull off creep, we should pull back and only engage on creep. There's like all these different rules, right? So first of all, you're dying to this a lot. Obviously, we're coming off a very strong Hellion Banshee meta, but the Terran hive mind is moving in a different direction right now. So it's very important for us to, you know, periodically adapt to what we're seeing and kind of say, okay, well, you know, why are we getting caught off guard by this? Are we just on autopilot assuming Italians every game? You know, what's going on? So what's your normal scouting in this matchup?
I send in my Overlord to scout their production at 3:30.
Okay, so we have a 3:30 Overlord. So what's that going to spot to know it's this? Let's take a look at this game. We can just go to that stage.
Okay. This game I'm being delayed with it pretty late.
Yeah, we were very distracted by the Reaper, and we're floating 800 minerals nice and early as well. But you know what's interesting in this game? Well, you actually don't even necessarily need to scout with the Overlord. Like you could just look at these Marines at the front and be like, looks like a 2-on-1. You could just play like it's a 2-on-1, right? It's a lot of Marines. Yeah. It's clearly a Marine focused build. So we could do that. So 3:30 over. What are we going to see? Barracks on the reactor. That's a big tell, right? That's the most obvious one, right? If your Overlord had gone through, you'd be like, well, that's not a factory. Barracks on the reactor. No Hellions at 3:30 when our Lings kill the Reaper / you know, kill Reaper / poke front if we want to do that. What else? Second barracks is down very early. And a high Marine count. Lots of different tells that we can read into that. All right, so what's your response?
Cut drones at around 45 and start making a bunch of Lings.
Cut drones at 45. Okay. So what game timer should that normally be where you hit 45 drones?
Ooh, I don't know.
Okay. So that's something we can figure out.
Okay.
That's, I'll say 4 minutes 30 is usually the standard sort of timing we think about building Lings from. You're doing a rule of one gas, right? If
yes.
I remember correctly. So do you get upgrades versus this normally?
I do.
Are they? What time do your Evo chambers go down with your normal build?
They would go down around 4:45 to 5 minutes.
Cool. Okay, so in this game we can see you started building units at about 4:40. You didn't have many queens out. You're building a lot of queens now, but you don't actually have queens out. You don't have any transfuses. So whenever you look at pros defending this push, you're going to see like 5 queens and like 3 transfuses between them at this timing, as well as the 30 Zerglings. So we've just got the Zerglings out, but look how many creep tumors we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 active tumors, which means we've got no transfuse. Also, our queens aren't at the front. So we're just completely unprepared for this, right? We're completely, not prepared for it. And the thing is, you do have enough units to defend this. It's not super ideal. We'd rather you have 7 or maybe even 8 queens out by this point. Maybe even 35 or 40 lings if we wanted to be really safe. But we can definitely see that the creep tumors is something which, I'm not sure if I really highlighted with you previously, but it's something that is important, not just to be safe against Hellbats, but, also against a 2-on-1. You don't want to have too many creep tumors down.
Okay.
So let's just leave this on your camera while this kind of goes down. So cut drones at 4 minutes, at 45 or so, 4 minutes 30, non-stop ling production. So you've said 45 drones.
How do you
recognize that in the game?
I hover my mouse over the supply icon.
Okay, and even I think a good way to do this more naturally in the game. It's cool that you're using that. I always forget that's even a thing because it is one of the newest things they added in there. You should know how many workers that is on your third base. So this game tells us that is 12, 10 to 12 workers on the third. Okay, so that's. And this is something we don't really always in game want to be just necessarily, kind of like, oh, we got to stop exactly 45. We go a little bit over, a little bit under. That's not the end of the world. But yeah. So save creep tumors. Is that something that should just be standard in your play?
Okay.
Should only have 3 to 4 tumors at most as standard.
So when I get my second 2 creep spreading queens out, I put a tumor in my main and a tumor on the ramp between the main and the natural, so I can kind of creep up the rest of my base. Is that something that you don't recommend me doing?
Not at all.
Or maybe just getting
just the one tumor can cover both, because you're gonna spread it anyway, right? So if you build it, whichever one you build, whether it's connecting the 2 bases, which you barely even need on this map, just because the natural's very close to the main, or you build it in the corner, you can spread it to the other area. You definitely don't want 2 creep tumors in that main. Even putting 1 in the main is already kind of like, oh, it's not the most important tumor, but it is a nice quality of life one, so I think it's worth sliding that in.
Okay.
As standard, because you need to have transfuse. Because remember, Hellbats were a big trouble for you as well, and against those, it's very important to save that energy. Transfuse ready at 4 minutes 40 to 5 minutes 30, which is 2-1-1, and all variety of Hellbat timings all come in that window. In this game, your queens were late. So I've gone back and I've said, wait a second, well, where were our queens? Why didn't we have that many queens? And we can see we did hit a supply block here on 44. And whenever you're natural saturated, so this point, 345 normally is when we should be building those extra queens with your standard build. But you haven't even queued them up at this point. So we were late on building those queens and sending the Overlord Scout in. And we then start droning, and then those queens start. So they're not crazy late. It's not the end of the world. But they are late. And let's see if we immediately queue up more queens afterwards and queue up a queen on the third. So we see third base does start immediately, which is great. If we queued up 2 more queens immediately out of the main and natural, we would still have those queens kind of popping out as the medevac drop comes in. So we could have, repurposed the injecting queens or something like that. We could bring those over, or we can just grab them as they pop out and bring them over. But definitely it's something as well where you've seen the Marines, you've spotted this. Let's get to that point of, well, what about positioning and micro? So first of all, you've got these great spotting overlords out on the map, which are fantastic against Hellions, Banshees.
Yeah.
But against a double Marine drop, these are fodder, right? They can just go around and kill all of those. So extra positioning on micro, pull back overlords when we realize it's a 2-on-1. Pull back your edge of creep overlords, is what I like to call these.
Okay.
So they don't get free kills. In terms of the positioning, we should have all the queens at the front, right? All the queens at the front. We should have the lings behind the queens, right? So the queens attack. What do your queens tend to focus fire?
Medvac.
Yeah. But if they pull the medevacs back, you have to make sure your queens don't just like try and walk past the Marines. And
Yeah.
obviously, whenever they engage, it's like if they jump, if they engage your queens, that's when the lings engage.
Okay.
So, if they're really bad with their control, this will work in the perfect way where your queens are actually even tanking if they don't micro properly. So if they like run forward into your queens and then your lings engage, they're shooting the big high hit point armor unit that has massive hit points and low damage, while your high damage yet fragile unit, the Zerglings, kills all their shit. Now, if they run away like this with the Marines, you need to stop chasing them unless you've got a full surround, right? And you need to pull back with your lings. You got to wait for them to kind of come forward, and there's a back and forth dance on both sides here. If you had 5 queens and some more Zerglings, it would have been better. But even with this count, with more lings building, if you were building those extra lings a little bit cleaner, we definitely still could have defended here. You also can bounce between your bases whenever you're feeling really pressured in Terran vs Zerg, especially, but to some extent every matchup. Go to your bases and just throw all your queens on your defense key. You're like, bam. Which one's your defense key, by the way? 5 or 7?
5.
Yeah, so you just like shift 5, shift 5, shift 5, and then you can, get all those queens to the front. If we did that earlier, that would be great. Something else is it's awesome to know where they're coming from, the 2-1-1, right? So what's something else? Well, we could have a few lings patrolling. A few lings, just individual lings to spot the drop move out. So that's a very advanced thing. You don't need to do that every game, but if we had a ling down here, ling patrolling there, ling patrolling over here or something, there's a very high chance we're going to spot that drop coming out, and we can kind of move our queens and lings in that direction to be ready for it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you ask these 3 questions, you're not always going to jump to these conclusions as quickly as I have here, right? When you're doing this on your own, you're not going to be like, well, you do this. You need to save energy for transfuse. That's something that obviously I have the experience to draw from, but the thing is you don't need to do all of these tiny little changes and adjustments, right? I've just mentioned like a dozen in the space of a few minutes. We're not always going to get on top of that. We don't always need to be able to do that, but it's definitely something where just 1 or 2 changes there would have turned that into a hold and a pretty even game. So yeah, host up another replay. Let's dive in.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So guys in chat, if there is anyone, hey, Turtle Boy, I believe is Diamond 1. Hey, still down. Yeah, so host up a replay while I just keep checking that we got a player ready.
Okay. Now let me just find it real quick.
All right. What's a defense key? It's just a key which all your creep queens are on, Red Soul. So all your non-injecting queens are basically, they have 2 purposes. One is to spread creep, one is to defend. And both of those benefit a shitload from you having a key, a hotkey, so you can quickly select them, put down creep shimmers, or you can quickly select them and use them to defend. Either of those is super helpful, dude. All right. So guys, we are doing a little bit of coaching, so I'm not going to be answering all your questions. If you do have a good question, hang on to it, save it until we, have a chance to talk to you guys a bit later on. And maybe people in chat can help you out if you do have a question. Direct it to the chat. Don't just direct your questions to me. So what's going on in this game? So what are we looking at here?
He goes mech, and I just deal with it very poorly. When I was rewatching this, one thing I noted, I saw him move out, and I didn't meet his army in the middle of the map at all. I'd let him siege up this huge-ass tank line right outside my 4th. I was also messing up my macro mechanics a lot. I was rallying drone, spending a lot of APM, doing a bunch of little tasks. Something you got on me last time for. So yeah, my execution of everything just wasn't very clean.
Okay, so what threw you off, though? Do you think it was certain pressure that threw you off? You've mentioned a few times, you get very discombobulated. Fantastic word.
Yeah. So
if they're pressuring, so yeah, any specific things that are throwing you off?
There's a good amount of Hellions in this game. He did stuff with Liberators. I don't know, just stuff to grab my attention.
Okay.
I did have a nice Ling counterattack, but I feel like I didn't get as much done for how much I committed to it.
So one of the big things here is always going to be whenever we're getting thrown off our game, one of the best things I like to do is like, well, why are we getting thrown off our game? Is there any moment where we're not 100% confident in what we should be doing and what our exact response should be? That's like what I'm always searching for in the opening stages of a game, especially when you're the defender. Your aim is to just build economy, which is just, you know, any standard reactive play as any race, but especially as a Zerg player, this is kind of what your early game's always about, right? So I'm searching for, okay, well, at this point I didn't handle it that well. Well, what should my exact response be? And if I don't know, it's like, well, shit, we need a plan for that little piece of the game, right? This little, maybe it's a Hellion Banshee, or maybe it's when I see a Liberator siege up the base. Maybe I don't understand what the fuck I was playing against well enough, and I need to actually go look at their build and understand it a little bit more. But I need to find a way to come up with a very definite plan of what I need to do, so that I can kind of train that as almost a set play, right? Think of it in any sport. Are you like an American football fan or soccer or anything?
Not particularly. StarCraft is my sport.
My man. I'm sure we've all watched enough like football movies to kind of get the idea though, right? You know, lots of set plays where it's like you've practiced out one specific series of very quick actions to an insane level. And if you can get that to happen in a game, it's great because you're just like, well, we know exactly what we're doing. We're kind of throwing a bunch of actions together. We know this is the right thing to do. And because we practiced it so many times, we're going to kill it. Like, we're so good at this. We're so quick at this, you know? And that's huge, being able to do that. And you should be doing this, you know, defensively and offensively. And that's part of, like, kind of what you grow as in terms of your, like, your general knowledge pool as a StarCraft player, right? You're just adding little pieces of understanding. Oh, what should I be doing exactly here? And then, you know, as you have that, it allows you to be much more like focused in your practice. And, you know, you're basically, next time you face that, you know exactly what you're going to do. And you might still fuck it up a bit, but it won't be as much because at least you know what you're fucking up and you know how to get back on track to some extent. And then with a bit more practice, you start executing it really well and really smoothly as well because you've encountered that situation enough times. That's where everything gets really, really sexy. So talk me through... I want you to almost commentate this game from like the 3-minute mark. Just we're gonna go on like, you know, fast. I might 2x speed it here and there, but just I want you to analyze it and very analytical sort of cast. Just kind of run me through your thought process. Just talk us through like what are you seeing, what can be improved. I want you to be just looking for all the little details that you can be improving in your play.
Okay, sounds good. So my lings are out of position there. I could have had a. I had him up on the high ground so that I could catch him when he gets up there. So far, I'm just doing the build.
So let's go back a second. Bring up your units tab. And this is one of the most useful things whenever you're looking at a replay, is always look at your units tab and alternate between that and your production.
Okay.
Because this tells us whether or not you're actually being efficient with your build. Rather than looking at things like the lings and stuff, like I'm on your camera right now, and obviously you can see down the bottom what you were selecting in real time, but if we look at your units tab, we can see there's quite a bit of lava sitting there that's not being spent. And it's not massive, but at this early stage, it's like, it's so important to just be like, spend, 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 spend.
Okay.
Also, what supply does our hatchery normally do? You see, you're like thinking about the hatch, you're running your overlord around, you still haven't spent that lava. So every little hiccup like this adds up so much throughout the game. And the more consistent you can be at fixing up these little things, and part of that skill, it's not about you getting 100% better at just magically being like, I'll just macro better. It's about being able to look at your games and quickly analyze where you're making these mistakes. That's okay. Because then you can very quickly open a replay. And what I'll often do is I'll go through on 4x speed. Used to do this all the time. We'll go to 230, 4x speed, and just watch the units tab. And I might send my screen to the very corner of the map, so I've got nothing on screen distracting me. And I'm like, ooh, 6 lava. Ooh, that's sitting there for a while. Ooh, well, okay. A few lava. Ooh, looks like we're getting close to a supply block. All right, we didn't quite get supply block. That was okay, but units tab again. All right, we had 10 lava, but we weren't able to spend it all because we did hit a supply block. All right. So we can just see there's slight hiccups a lot through this whole early phase, 2 minutes 30 to 4 minutes. And they're very small, but this is the easiest stage to get extra value out of. And every drone makes such a big difference at this stage as well. One of the coolest things here is just adding this extra layer of detail to like, and almost, I don't know, just being, you know, obsessed with it, everything being tight, is so beautiful. It adds so much to our play here. And you can look at it and be like, well, okay, why am I running Zerglings around on the edge of creep? Do I need to do this? No, not really. If you're nervous, though, about Reapers, I look at this and I say, well, maybe we're nervous about Reapers and blocking our third base. So I might just put this Overlord that you've got out front your base, I might just put that on the jump-up ledge instead. That way I'll see if the Reaper goes there, but otherwise I just don't need to worry about it, right? I've just got my Queen at the front of my natural. Because it's just, this is a point where you wasted a bunch of APM. So, watch it again. Zerglings here. Your camera's on them. You're controlling them. You're microing them. You're microing them. You go, let's put down a third. Oh, my Overlord's there. Oh, let's grab it. So why wasn't that Overlord already queued? And that's it, right? It's like these series of things. You're like, well, shit, that Overlord should be queued every game. And it's so small. But it's just one of these things like, okay, we should always queue that Overlord to a better position, right? And you just remind yourself of this tiny detail. You're like, I shouldn't really be looking at Zerglings. Anytime I am looking at my Zerglings in the early game, I should be building Overlords and drones and you know, just keeping up my production on my keys even while I'm looking at them. You know, I've trained myself to have this sinking feeling in my stomach, or like this kind of like alarm bell feeling. Whenever I'm looking at my Zerglings too much in the early game, I'm like, you know this means you're fucking something else up, pig. And I've kind of trained my brain to realize that, because there are games where you just stare at your lings too much. Maybe I can get this Reaper. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. Then you're like, well, I've been floating 8 lava and 400 minerals this whole time. Okay, you know, this was pointless. This was silly, right? And we all do it. So you're constantly looking to tighten that up. And the thing is, if you get more drones out earlier, and you get tighten up this phase of the game, we can do things like change your reaction before. That 2-1-1 reaction, you said cut drones at 45. We can take that to like 55. We can just be like disgusting and just build like a really silly drone count if you're efficient enough in your early game. Do we want to do that? No. We'll keep things in a more contained thing. 45, or if we accidentally over drone slightly, we accidentally build 50 drones. That's fine. We've got a little bit of margin for error. It's all good. So yeah, definitely analyzing your replays and looking for these little mistakes already in the absence of any real serious pressure from our opponent's big. Just there, we lost a creep tumor. That's something we can look at as well. So I have a rule with my creep tumors. I always make sure my Zerglings are in front whenever I put down my first creep tumor, and I always try to not put it right at the edge of creep, just because I know the Reaper's going to be looking for it. So I'm always like, Lings move forward in front of Queen, now put down creep tumor, you know? And the creep tumor always goes behind the Queen. And this is just this like little rule I've given myself so they can never do that. Because losing that creep tumor is such a pain in the butt. So tumor always goes behind Queen. Lings always in front of tumors, of your first few tumors, right? The first 2 or 3. So Reaper can't snipe it. These like tiny little details that give us so much value as we make these a part of every game we play. Because at this stage we're at 35 drones, and it's already time, if this was a 2-on-1, to start building Zerglings, right? We could be easily at 45 or 50 drones, easily. But we just see we're kind of, you know, we're not in that very early rhythm. And then we did build a lot of Zerglings as well, right? 14, I guess that's not too bad. I'm not going to hate on that. 14 is fine. I think we just could have had more drones out earlier. So I think the Zerglings, at the time you built them, I'm not going to say that's a problem. I think that's okay. Those 20 Zerglings are a problem. So if you want to go for a big Ling flood, that can be good on some maps, but...
Honestly, I was just worried about a Hellbat timing or something. I didn't know exactly what he was doing, if he was making more Hellions, if he was going to yellow them in. So I thought I'd be safe by making a shit ton of Lings.
Lings are pretty bad if he goes like 8 or 10 Hellbats though, right? They're pretty terrible. So the fact that you're already making a lot of Queens should keep you safe-ish. The problem is your Queen count's not as big as it could be either. Same as in the previous game. And this is just a symptom of our macro not being as good as it could be early on, with us hitting supply blocks and not droning as consistently in the early stage, right? So that's why you only have 6 Queens here. At 4 minutes, actually, I think you've only got 5. When a Hellbat timing could technically hit now with 6 Hellbats, a few Marines and a Medevac, and a Reaper. And with only 5 Queens, we'd be in big trubs, right? So normally it's about 345. We should have 2 mineral lines fully saturated, and our gas should be back on mining. I guess we're kind of there, and we should be starting 2 more queens. We kind of have the money for it, right?
Yeah.
But we just didn't start it. So yeah, I think we're just a little bit out of sorts with our build, and this might partly be because things aren't lining up the way they should. Because there's probably a bit of inconsistency with your opening, right? So yeah. Some games you're probably better at spending that lava earlier. This game you're not. So your money's lining up a bit different and that sort of thing. So the more you can just focus on you know, okay, remember the overlords, remember the drones, keep droning, get the hatcheries at the right time. I think this naturally should just, you know, build into you being a little bit smoother in your early game. A lot of players, I think, sometimes get in their own head with this sort of opening that's so defensive early on. And they start kind of doing things by feel, just because they're so used to being on the defensive with this build, and they let the trauma affect them, right? Maybe it's a Hellbat timing. In this game, that's exactly what the trauma was, right? We're like, well, we don't know what's happening, so it could be this, and we kind of do what is not really a logical response, which is building Zerglings. If we wanted to be safe against it, well, we just build more queens. Maybe a spine? You know, that's something which is actually really good versus Hellbats. Zerglings not so great. And the thing is, we had no idea that was actually coming, so we're kind of letting fear dictate what our response is. And that's always something which we want to try and avoid. We always want to be like very calm and logical. And whenever you're losing games, you want to try and be as objective as possible. One of the best things you can do is, when you lose a game, train yourself to look at these tiny things you can improve and kind of don't get fancy with like, oh, what could the answer to be? This time he hit with 8 Hellbats. Normally it's only 6, and I died this time. That must just be too strong. And like the number of times I've coached people and they've made like a statement like that, I'm like, whoa, you really think there's that much of a difference between 8 and 6 Hellbats? Like, that's not the problem. The problem is one game we're droning really hard, and the next game we're getting supply blocked twice. And because of that, we're inconsistent, but we're drawing conclusions from games where our macro is inconsistent, where we should just be saying, what can I do better that game? Open the replay. I can just fix this, this, and this. And it doesn't even need to be an opponent in the game, right? For us to find those things. We can like ignore our opponent completely. So being able to shift between focusing on what we can do better, maybe half the time, just in terms of like raw macro, and preferably make a habit of always looking for that. Rather than just focusing on what could our opponent do to, what could they do to me? The more tight you get with the build, the more confident, the more consistent, and everything becomes really sexy from there because the games are just more consistent and smooth. So if we don't get a lot of damage done with this Ling run by, we can see we're kind of down on workers, which with triple mules dropping means we're actually way behind. So if he raises, luckily he just brought his SCVs to the low ground, so we do get something. But otherwise, yeah, that could have been really nasty. If we just got a siege tank for that, wouldn't have been too good. On the plus side, no matter how many mistakes there are, we can always make it back into a game. So yeah, I think just looking for our own macro things, this is one of those replays which is very useful for that. I'm sure you've played other games where there's Liberators bouncing in and Banshees and Hellions doing run-bys, and those sort of games are kind of funny because they are a more forced screwing up. And sometimes it's the trauma of those games that leads to us fucking up in these games where they're not really doing hard pressure. You just kind of poked around with the Hellions. Yeah, you poked with the Liberator, but you were ready for it. But we just didn't drone as hard as we could because we were a bit paranoid. Cool thing is, what you'll often see is, oh, I'm comfortable now. Bam! Look at me. I'm at 75 drones. I get a 4th on the way, you know, and you're kind of exploding to that next stage of the game quite well. So yeah, I mean, from here, obviously we have a ton of money saved up.
Yeah.
Where's our 5th? Where's our gases on our 4th? We should already have those down. In general, when you're going against mech, you should always be like, you know, getting those gases down as fast as possible. We also got supply blocked here. We built 2 overlords while floating 2k minerals. If you got a couple thousand minerals, you build 10 overlords always. We also then build Zerglings here while going Roach Hydra versus mech, and then we don't start a hive. So this is something which I think is quite simple in that you're like, do you think this was a logical like decision? The Zerglings, like, was there a good game plan for it, or is this just like a mistake?
I made the Zerglings because I wanted to throw in another counterattack because I didn't know exactly what he was up to. So I thought that if he had a 4th or something, I could punish it with a Ling run by.
Okay, so what do you think is a better way of achieving the same goal there? Because you mentioned you didn't know what was going on was the main thing. Let's start with that. What's a better way?
I could scout with Overseer.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's one of the main things there is that's such a kind of by feel play. You're just like, maybe he has a 4th and I can do damage with a Ling counter. But look at this map. If he's on 3 base, there's no fucking chance, right? There's going to be a wall and like units there, right? These units also offer very little to your composition at this stage of the game, right? They offer next to nothing in a frontal engagement. So the Lings are a huge throwaway just due to us lacking information. And that's what was the impetus. I think saying, oh, I've built Zerglings accidentally, or I have them left over. Let's look for a 4th, look for a counterattack, see if there's opening, poke them. That's great. That's utilizing what you've got, because it doesn't have a lot of use otherwise. But in this particular scenario, the best thing we could have done was really just saying to ourselves, wait a second, we could just make an Overseer and fly in. We can send a single Roach or a single Zergling that's in our army across the map and suicide and go, oh yeah, he's got a bunch of tanks, you know, okay, cool, he's going mech or something like that. But as it was, yeah, we kind of just took a bit too long there. And then you already pointed out earlier, you know, you didn't stop him pushing across the map. Obviously our creep was focused a bit too much on the wrong side of the map as well. Our creep was just slowed down in general, but our creep should always be focused in front of our 4th base more than anywhere else. And we had the money to build a 5th base for the last 4 minutes, right? Pretty much non-stop. So there was no reason not to. We actually built 8 Overlords here when we only needed 2 more to finish maxing out as well. And that's the thing. This is one of these games where I think you just didn't look comfortable in this game. And I don't know, you know, sometimes you just play at 70%. Sometimes you play at 50%. That's just human performance in a nutshell. We do not always wake up on the right side of the bed. You can't always have a perfect game. You know, for me, whenever I'm playing not that good, I try to really like focus on the basics of just let's just do my build and spend my money in the preordained way, because the first thing that goes and disappears in an off day is your ability to adapt on the fly. It's your ability to react to things in intelligent ways. You're going to start doing really dumb shit if you start trying to adapt on the fly on a day where you're already underperforming. Like you can make these genius maneuvers happen, and you just like, oh, well, I made that happen, but I haven't injected for 4 minutes straight, so it doesn't even matter like how intelligent this decision was. You know, my focus should be on my raw mechanics and spending and stuff. So this was really cool, dude. I don't know if there's anyone else, anyone who's willing to play against us, guys. Hop into channel and let's see what we can do. So I want you to be identifying these questions more. While we find someone, guys, 4,500 MMR, anyone plus minus a couple hundred MMR, Terran player, hop into chat channel Piggy on the NA server to do that. All you need to do is type /join space Piggy down here, click in your chat channel /join space Piggy. Get in here, guys, help us out, play against my student. I'll give you some advice as well if you just ask a question or two at the end, no worries. So yeah, what we're getting out of this whole process, right, is a couple of things. Asking us questions about what our exact responses are to things and dealing with it. In that last game, it's one of these games where there wasn't necessarily a pressure that did damage to us, but there was a little bit of fear in your play in terms of, okay, well, what if it's Hellbats, or what if it's, we don't know what's going on. So what's important there is, what if we don't know what's going on? So what are you going to do next time? No idea what the Terran is doing. Well,
build an Overseer.
Overseer is good. That's a bit later though, right? You didn't necessarily have a lair early on. So let's talk about what did you know? You actually did know what he was doing. You knew he went Hellions and a Viking, right?
Yeah.
Now what can come off that? Hellbats, Liberator, Banshee. Those are the 3 things that you're worried about, right?
Yeah.
As well as obviously just Hellion run-bys. You should be confident to say, Queens, stop all of this. Queens, plus maybe, you know, 15 to 20 Lings, which you already had from very early on in that game. Stop all of this. Obviously, you need spores as well, right? Spores too.
Yeah.
So you don't need to adapt at all. And the next time you're doing that, you're like, yeah, I'm not stressed at all. I don't know what he's doing. I don't care. I'm just going to do my build. And you know what? You'll fuck up and you'll die. And what's important now is what we just did. You'll open up the replay and you go, I died not because I didn't blindly build 80 Zerglings when I wasn't sure what was happening. I died because my queens were late for no reason, and I need to tighten up my early game. And, oh, I dropped three too many creep tumors, so I was 3 transfuses less. There were 3 queens that were on 30 energy. That could have been 3 queens on 60 energy. They could have each had a transfuse. That would have totally changed this fight. So now that we've got more confidence in that queen Ling defense, and that's really why this opening is so good, is because You want to put yourself in the Terran mindset. That's kind of, sorry, what I'm laughing at right now. Make me a ref and put Monkers up. Should be great.
Or observer, does that work? Or
Just
referee, there we go.
referee. There we go. Yeah, so whenever you guys are ready, that should be great. Whatever floats your boat. 2-on-1, mech, anything. Lots of harass is encouraged, but really just do what you're good at.
Okay.
What you normally do. That's try and get him to kind of get in his comfort zone and give us a match. Yeah, so try to be very, very confident in your build, and this is where we learn the process of taking our play to the next level of refinement, where we're analyzing our losses not in terms of, fuck, I need to react to everything that's going on, because you are at Diamond 1 MMR, and it's really funny, right? This is actually one of these things. Players in Diamond react too much, yourself included. You're used to, you want to know exactly what's happening, exactly what units are coming out so you can adapt to it. And that's like one of the best ways to get up to Diamond and to Diamond 1 is try to like be scouting and actively reacting, because your builds aren't as refined when you're going up through Gold and Plat, right? Like you're a bit looser in your play, but it's good because that gives you the opportunity to learn, what should I do against this? What should I do against this? And you get this very organic feel for the game. But now you're at the point where we want to push you over that next tier. We want to get you up a couple hundred more MMR, and it's not just about the MMR, but it's about what leads us to that next level of play. It's a little bit more confidence in our build to just block shit if we do it well, and to have less reactions but much more refined reactions. So when something demands a reaction, like a 2-1-1, we have like this fucking dot point list pop up in your brain automatically, and you know exactly what to do. But the difference between a Hellion into Liberator and a Hellion into Banshee, we have literally zero difference in our response. We're like, it's too impossible to reliably to see which one's coming. Who gives a fuck? We just do the same thing and it blocks both. And that's why we kind of alternate between just having a really solid build, which blocks most things, and having a few preset reactions, which we become very refined at doing. And every now and then, new shit comes in, and we're like, well, fuck, we need a new reaction, and we learn a new, very refined reaction. But for now, this is awesome. That's the mindset we're getting into. So let's play this build out. I want you to be really confident with your opening. Do your normal scouting. Let's drone nice and hard. Good luck, have fun, man. Just get in your groove.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Cool. I don't know what's happening. Can you hear me, man? No? No, he can't? Good. I actually remember to mute my mic. I'm just writing a few notes here. I think I'll put this one on YouTube, maybe. When did we start this call? How long do we have left? 20 minutes left. Cool. Coaching, 1220 to 120. ZvT. What would we call today's coaching session, guys? What do you think? Defending pressure and tightening our play, I think is a good name for that. I think we also had a few builds this morning. The unit request builds. So what did we have, guys? We had a Swarm Host, we had a Nidus, and we had a BC game. Maybe a few other cheesy plays too. So I'll take a look through the VODs from this morning and throw some of those up on the tubes, so people can check them out later. Just putting down notes of that, make sure I don't forget what good content there was from today's stream. Probably about an hour and a bit until we're actually playing 2v2s with Maynard, anyone who's keen on that. So this is bad. He's losing Zerglings. But, you know what, guys? He was injecting, spreading creep, droning. He's building overlords. I'm not going to tell him to do anything. Realistically, as nice as it would be to tell him what to do, I did that last week when we were coaching. It was not bad. It wasn't bad. But does he need me whispering in his ear every week? No, no, no. We need to let him play a game, and we need to let him find what's gone wrong or what could be cleaned up or tightened up. And if we can get him to that point, his queen's much more on time this game. Always build extra OVs as you sacrifice your OV. So right now he's only building one Overlord, right? His production should also be ramping up. So does it make sense to only be building one extra OV when that Overlord should die most games? Not at all. So let's, ooh, sorry guys. That's what we wanted. So we're on his thing now. Yeah, lose a few drones. Not the end of the world, as long as he keeps up his production. So where is Queens? They're finally getting down here. Very slow on this, and he's missing injects. He's droning though. He's doing a better job, I think, of multitasking a little bit. Definitely could still be massively improved. There's a lot of little things still going wrong in the play, you know, that are just a little bit too slow to get started and stuff, but it's good to see. Oh shit, the fuck? He right-clicked that queen over there. Doesn't quite have a transfuse. And, yeah, why aren't these queens staying in front of the hatch? It's a big question there. Where's his overlords at? Big supply block. Only builds 3 overlords. So he's got to ramp up that production more. You need to ramp up your overlord production faster. Often only building 3 overlords, even though you're at 3 base saturation. Big rounds of 5 to 6 OVs for the win, dude. Especially if you hit supply blocks. Yeah, I coach all races, mate. If you're interested in coaching, hit up my email. Jaden linked it in chat. Thanks, Jaden. Jaden, why aren't you a mod? You're a moderator. You're always here being helpful. Thanks so much, dude. Really appreciate it. Is mid-game OV speed worth it for Prudy to take out the guessing game? Should be more focused on mechanics. No, an Overseer can do that job. I mean, I just think OV speed takes too long from the investment. You know, it's not bad. It's not bad. If you like it, you can go for it. But I think Overseers are good. So here we go. He's changing. He's changing his upgrades to range. I love it. Going roaches. His lair's almost done, so we're going Hydra soon. Should already be taking the gases on his 4th, really, but I think he's getting in position now. If that was dropping creep, that would be so sexy. Because look at the timing. The lair finishes. If his overlord was in position, he dropped creep. That would be like the ultimate cock block. It'd be so good. When did they change the requirement for Spore Crawler? Quite a while ago, dude. It's funny when you come back to the game and you're like, what? Did they change this? Yeah, I think it's because mutas are too strong. I think that was the reasoning. Or maybe it was for Banshees and stuff. DTs, maybe? I guess a mix of all of the above. Oh, so many queens. That's a lot of queens. 12 queens. Wow. That's kind of insane queen count, if you ask me. It's not the end of the world. You can do it. I'm just not the biggest fan of mass queen. Only an SCT's cock block a good time.
Ah, shit. Didn't need to do that.
He just built Zerglings. I was immediately like, wait, that's a dumb call. So I love that he realized it. His buildings are a bit haphazard. They're all kind of all over the place. Makes it a little bit awkward for him to start his upgrades. Excuse me, whereas you'll see me put all my tech buildings like that usually. Or in like reasonably consistent locations. His opponents... Oh my god, where's the transfuse? He didn't transfuse? Oh, he's gonna get the Thors though. At least, yeah, you'll get both of them. Oh, if he doesn't transfuse, that's gonna be bad. Queen's killing Thors is like the funniest thing. This unit doesn't do damage. Because the Thor has 2 base armor now, remember guys. So that's pretty big. Who's breathing a so loud? Sorry, that's his. Let me turn his mic volume down. There we go. Fixed it. I can ASMR this shit, but don't know. It's okay. We won't do that. This Roach Warren should be tucked away. Yeah, it's a little bit exposed there. Definitely could have been sniped down. You're doing good, but you absolutely should have a little squad of roaches on a different key, ready to deal with heli encounters, and we should have spotting units all over the map at this point. You know, we should be ready to see if the push comes out so we can jump on it. You know, our army should be out in the middle of the map, ready to deal with any push as it comes out.
Okay.
You're getting close to Hive, but remember, mass Hydras should be on the way. We should be massing out the Hydras and everything. You know, continuing this tech up and trying to get those Vipers. He just didn't pull drones away from Hellbats. Ooh, naughty. Just lost a lot of drones there. He has to form a habit of taking the gases on this fourth. When you take fourth base versus mech, immediately take gases. In the games where you lose it, you take forever to actually get it rebuilt and put gases down. Do it ahead of time to make up for your slowness on this. Even pros do it. Even pros do this. Even though it's not perfectly efficient. We are humans. We are not perfect and we make many mistakes. So he's missing a roach spotter in the middle of the map as well as a roach spotter on the north side. He's got really good creep though, which is nice. So few Hydras. So many roaches. So you should always have a squad of roaches, guys. This is something which he hasn't done. So yeah. Verse mech. You should always have a 5 roach squad on a defense key on the separate flank from your main army. So what I mean by that, guys, is if the main army's chilling up here, well, if a heli encounter runs in down here right now, it kills a bunch of drones, he's got to pull drones away, he's got to run his whole army. If he just had 5 roaches chilling down here, this would change everything, right? It would make his life so much easier. He should also be killing all the rocks. You need to take down all the rocks on this map. He maxed out ages ago, but he hasn't been trading on his opponent at all. So that's also very dangerous because he's not at a good drone count. So with such a small economy, you need to be very careful that you're using your units while they're useful. And he's let his opponent max out now and walk across the map while his army just sat at home. So he's getting wedged in this very defensive focus. He's taking too long to tick all these things off his list. He's now, I believe, about to just move in. He's moved his army very close. His Vipers are nowhere near in position. Oh, luckily, a lot of the tanks weren't sieged yet. That was lucky. A tank volley on the right-hand side would have killed everything. He's got to get down another blinding cloud there. Yeah, not a bad one. I think he can hold on now. Like, he's not going to clear up all the tanks immediately, but he'll kill enough. 37 Hydra Remax. Yeah, that'll get the job done. But that was a sloppy fight. And it came down to the fact that his units weren't on the map, and he didn't even see the push coming till it got here. He should have been aggressively clearing all of these rocks, even breaking down his own rock tower and clearing that, and having, you know, a roach here, a unit here. He didn't actually have his units in the correct position. This thing should have been there. Should have had a unit up here, that sort of thing. So that's something he can focus on, is how to get better map control.
Hell yeah.
Says hell yeah, but his army is still very defensive. Your economy still hasn't been very great this game, so you're actually not in an awesome economy. So you still have to be very careful. If you want to play a longer game, then yeah, 15 drones is the big thing. I mean, we've also got a respread creep, and you still don't have great map control. At many points in this game, he could push through the middle of the map or the north side or wherever, and you'd have no idea because you don't really have spotters in the right positions. And keep in mind, you should always have a squad of 5 roaches on a defense key, you know, kind of, or even unhotkeyed on the separate flank from where your army is. At this stage, we don't need that so much. We just need spines. So like our bottom base is the most exposed. We should have spines there, that sort of thing. But we should definitely be looking to continue trading with our opponent as soon as possible. You know, we've made 3 Broodlords, but that's not really the important part of the army. You reset his mech count. It's just about finding trades with the Roach Hydra Viper for now. And definitely when your opponent takes a 5th on this map, they get super exposed. Their bases become, you know, way out in the open. It becomes quite easy to take them down. But even before then, after clearing his whole mech army before, that's always good for Zerg. And even off our smaller economy, I think it's quite fine. So, you know, we should really be getting over there and being active and keeping check on exactly what's happening on the map. And definitely, if the game drags on, you really should clear out the rocks. You should have been doing that much earlier, because the whole center area of this map is a fucking nightmare against mech if you don't clear those rocks out.
Oh shit, I got lag.
Yeah, someone's lagging. I don't know who. It's him.
It's Monkas.
I'll pause it.
Sure.
Game paused.
Thank you.
You okay? Lagged a bit.
No worries.
Here we go.
Game complete.
All right. So overall, not a bad game, but definitely one where engaging with his roaches before he realized where his vipers were could have been a big mistake. We've all done that. We've all done that. But, whoa! Get out of there! Run, 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 run! The fuck is he doing? Jesus Christ. I had no idea what he was walking into. I had no vision.
Didn't mean to do that.
Oh man, that was atrocious. His work account still sucks balls, by the way, guys. It really sucks. I don't know where... Did he just lose a ton more to Hellions or something? Didn't he go up to 80 workers a second ago? Hatch gas gas, hatch gas gas. So you should be, you know, building expansions and the gases immediately, and build another 10 drones. Your economy really has just not been that great all game long. Your 4th base in the middle is not saturated and never has been. So, and your 3rd base isn't even saturated. So this is something where, yeah, ooh, armies left out on the map. Yeah. So you just built 32 drones? That's too many.
Yeah,
Another 10 drones would have been nice. Pull your army entirely back. Focus on army production now. You've got Vipers. If you can suck energy with those in the main base while pulling everything else away, you know, you can take down his air army with parasitic bombs, refuel, and then go in with the blinding clouds. You've got to pull your whole army way back, and you've got to really suck energy right now while trying to refill. Yeah, 32 drones. That was crazy. Wow, he just held down that key right as the scary counter was coming. I mean, he's going to be able to kill a lot of tanks. It's not terrible. Where's the parasitic bombs? He doesn't have the energy yet. He didn't suck more energy. Ooh, okay. He didn't queue up his consumes properly there. I don't know if he knows how to do that. Let's write that one down. Queue up consumes so they suck more energy when they finish with the first ones. That way, with 2 full consumes, your Vipers will have 200 energy. Oh my lord. He managed to do it. Suck with 2 C's. That's how you want to do it. So we should have been much more willing to give up a base there. That worked out, and we should be able to counterattack and win the game now with our Hydra Broodlord Viper. But that was very, very dangerous. Your Vipers had only done 1 suck of energy, and most of them didn't have Parasitic Bomb yet.
Yeah.
And you only had 1 Blinding Cloud. You should always queue up consume 1 billion clicks so that both Vipers do a double consume.
Okay.
Because that way they'll automatically have full energy. Like if you've got a single Viper, you tell it to start consuming something, there is actually a cooldown, so you can't tell it to do it again. But if you've got like 8 Vipers, you'll be able to queue it up multiple times, so all your Vipers will actually fully fuel up on energy. So definitely something we should have patiently waited for. We had so many workers, we did not need to defend our front base that they were pushing into at all. Hydras should be microing out of planetary range here, backing off, taking out this base to the south, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna, you know, go rotate around. You keep headbutting into this planetary. While you're refilling, you should be refueling your Vipers. Use shift. Tell them to go suck Evo chambers as many times as possible. Queue them up on separate Evo chambers using shift so they queue up heaps of times and then move back to the front. and then we can kind of rotate our army around to the top right or something like that, or the middle, and we can try and find a different angle rather than headbutting into a planetary fortress. We know there's an orbital on the top side. We know that there's no planetary in the middle. So either one of those is a much better way to finish the game. Obviously, if we're playing mega safe and careful, we can kind of wait it out and, you know, deny a fifth, but there's no reason to since we're maxed and we have a huge economy and a huge army. Take that base down there that you don't know about. I mean, he had an overseer on it, my man. he knew about it. That overseer that was there all game long, dude. It was sitting there for like 15 minutes. It was like a fucking overseer from 5 minutes into the game that never moved. It's quite convenient. All right. This one's about up. Great game, though.
This one's about up.
Yep.
Good game.
GG. So good harass by him. So we've got to finish up now in a sec, but what we can do is with that game, I want you to look through. So let's very quickly load up that replay.
Okay.
So go watch with others. And I want you to be in control of it. And we'll just start analyzing it, but I want you to continue analyzing it for all the little things you can do better with your build.
Okay.
There's always these little things and areas where you can improve, and the more you analyze it, the better it is. So my man. Pig, you said you weren't going to
Thank you very much for all the help, man.
No worries, dude. I wrote a lot of notes down, lots of little things.
Excellent.
Chat saying, Pig, you said you weren't going to tell him what to do so he can actually kill the Terran. And that's why I didn't until the late game when most of the important points were over. The areas where we need to get in a lot of practice. And I was like, okay, let's just start highlighting these points. Since when we defended the first push, we were good from there, basically. You know,
you want me to speed it up?
Yeah, just go through at your own pace, and I'll cover a few of these points. And obviously, you can go over the notes. You need to take down all the rocks on this map 100%. You need to have a 5 roach squad on defense. I don't know what you want your defense key to be, but you need to choose that. That would have made your life so much easier. Your whole army was moving from side to side trying to defend your 4 base, and you took forever to actually utilize your 4th and get gas up on it. There was an unfortunate moment where we didn't transfuse the 4th. The Thor drop sniped it when we had 8 queens with full energy next to it, which was a shame. But there was a lot of stuff going on. So it's not like I'm like, oh, you fucking moron. Like, you weren't staring at it. You were doing other things. You know, it was a understandable error. But when you retook the 4th, you didn't take your gases there. So you take a long time in your games to take these gases on these newer bases, and especially against mech where you know it's going to a higher economy situation because you play such a defensive style. You always play a very high economy style. Like, you've got to be, you know, taking that gas on that base as early as possible, because what's happening is you're like, oh, I lost my 4th. Okay, let's rebuild it. Okay, 30 seconds after it's finished rebuilding, I'm noticing it's rebuilding. Let's build drones for it. Okay, a minute after those drones have been there mining minerals, I realize and I go and drop gases. A minute later, 30 seconds after those gases are finished, I look back and I start mining gas. And it's like, if we just took the gases the first time, when we first build drones, we can be like, oh, tell the eggs to go on the gas, deselect all, deselect 3, right click on the other gas, deselect 3, click on the minerals, right? We can do that with the eggs, which saves us so much time. So these little things, especially as the game goes longer, we want to like streamline every macro task. Every time you take a new hatch, gas. You know, you build all of it at once, right? You just box a bunch of drones on a hatch and you go, build hatch, build gas, all in one go. You just want to get that over and done with because we want to focus on the army. The army usage is so important as the game goes on. You don't ramp up your overlord production enough in your games, so...
Yeah, I got supply blocked a lot this game.
You see here, you sacrificed an overlord, about 340 or whatever, 330. You sacrifice an overlord, but you never build extra overlords. So if that overlord dies, which it should every game, it didn't this game until much later, like you should get supply blocked every time there because you're not accommodating to it. But even if you're not thinking about that overlord dying, you should still be building more overlords. You're building one at a time a lot. as if you're at 20 drones still. But, you know, you're up at 3 base mineral saturation by the 4-minute, 30-minute mark plus, right? You've got crazy mineral income. And here, like, at one point you got supply block, you built 2 overlords. You know, then you'd hit it, and then you'd build another 5 overlords. But you're already at, you know, 1,200 or 1,500 minerals by that point. So ramping up your overlord production a little bit more consciously in your ZvTs is going to help out a little bit. That's just going to add up as that becomes more habit. Okay. Other than that, those are the main notes that I wrote down here. The other stuff is just for you to look at why didn't you have the greatest economy, you know? Let's very quickly look at a few things. Go back to the 2-minute 30 mark, the 2-minute mark, somewhere around there. 2 minutes up to about 4:35 minutes is a very crucial time, right? So there's very little variation up till now, but this is the point here where it's like, okay, we're looking for a 3rd base. So yeah, talk us through 2 times speed it maybe, use that units tab to look for lava buildup, find errors, find things you can improve. Let's just do this for 2 minutes and talk me through it.
All right, so I was dancing with the Reaper. Around this time, I want to send out a drone to go take a 3rd. I got a larva, I got 4 larva doing nothing, 5 larva. While I'm going to take a base, I'm stacking up larva. Losing control of my lings wasn't very good. I should have put guys on gas already. Did I not do that? I have not put guys on gas yet.
Yep.
And I have 20 drones at my natural. So I could have taken 3, queued them to my extractor, and then I would be back on gas at the right time.
Yep. So lots of these little things. So good to just look for these details. Such a good habit to form.
My overload's scouting a little bit late, but I don't think that's not too big of an issue, is it?
I don't think so. I think that's totally fine. Anything you know, around now is good.
I have a lot of money. I need overlords. Yeah, good game, Monkus.
Cool. So I think this is some good stuff, and you know, definitely at this point we see there's quite a big window between us. Kind of like we just didn't get our queens in front of that 3rd base early enough. I think we're kind of worried about this middle area. But,
yeah, I was worried about them swinging around. I could have had better vision, I think. If I had like an overlord placed like right here, maybe I could see them swinging around a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just a little bit slow to get that one up, right? Whereas we prioritize the overlord down on the bottom, which isn't important until later on, right?
Yeah.
Flying harassment and stuff. So definitely that's, you know, these little things, look for those, hunt for those. Because your 3rd did not get saturated as quickly as it could. Now, obviously against 2-on-1, it's a lower pressure build. Sorry, just killing a fruit fly. It's a lower pressure build. So 2-on-1, yeah, it's like you can streamline your way up a bit better, right? It's a bit easier. Obviously, it's natural. You're not necessarily going to have 12 workers on your 3rd at 4:30. But we can see we didn't get 12 workers till 5:30. We were a full minute later than what our ideal is, like, you know, versus the 2-on-1. So we can look at this and say, like, oh, okay, clearly, like, there was, you know, tightening up a few of these things, not getting supply blocked, having that overlord there, so we could have our queens in position a bit better. All this stuff would have added up so much, you know, would have made a really big difference.
Floating a lot of not minerals, a lot of larvae and minerals too, but.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's like, well, we took a long time to get on top of that minerals, right? Like, whenever you're floating minerals, it should be like, man, macro hatch, 4th base, double gas on the 4th straight away, you know, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I mean, you ended up, you know, getting ahead, right? StarCraft is an imperfect game where you're always going to be making mistakes. The really empowering thing about learning to analyze your games in this style, and this is, you know, what I talked about earlier with it's the boundary between Diamond and Masters for many people. Everyone's different. People have different strengths, but in terms of a very broad generalization, it's like, well, you're freestyling before, and you're pretty good at it, but you're not tied at all with your responses. Every game's a little bit different, bit inconsistent. Now we're tightening that shit up. We're taking it to the next level. And the really empowering thing is any game we can look at, we can say, I can spend my money better here. I can get more of a pattern to building my overlords in the early game. I can come up with a rule with my overlord spread so that I'm not as nervous about where these Hellions are. I can focus more on spending my money, building my drones and overlords. You know, there's always like these just very formulaic ways which apply to all your games to improve your play, right? It's not, he's done the Hellion play, I need to get the roaches to counter the Hellions, which is what most players do in the overall StarCraft base. But now you're getting to those upper echelons, you're starting to think more about, you know, small reactions, small adjustments, and also just built-in things that keep you safe against stuff, even when it's not happening. We just put these overlords in position early on, and we're just kind of ready for that every game. We build it in as a standard thing, and the whole play as a whole starts to become much more rock solid. Awesome. So this has been great. You know, go through your replays, analyze them, keep doing that, looking for those tiny things to improve at. We've got tons of notes. Go back tomorrow, rewatch the games and read through the notes and absorb them all. And really, it's just about systematically looking at the details. You know, people often say, where do I improve? I'm lost. And something I really oversimplify. I'm like, it's fucking easy. There's 1,000 things to improve at in StarCraft. It's not easy to improve at them, but like when you're as experienced as me, it's like it's almost like it's crazy because I'm like, well, there's always 4,000 things at my level of play I can improve in every matchup, every game. There are so many things, and I'm pretty friggin' lazy. You know, like if I was still playing as a pro gamer, I would laugh at my efforts to improve because I don't focus that much on improving and sitting there and grinding out specific responses and grinding out a certain matchup to address the fact that I always lose my 4th to Thor drop or whatever the fuck the thing may be, you know? Whereas otherwise I'd be doing that all day. I'd be like, oh yeah, I need to like memorize this response. You know what this thing caused me trouble? I need to write down a reaction list to that. And I'm pretty half-assed at it these days, but there's still, you know, this constant process of improvement. So good luck, have fun, man. I think this was a good sesh.
Yeah, I do too.
Updating my my little notes over here. I think, was this our 3rd session?
This is our 3rd session.
Okay, cool. Yep, got that up to date. Awesome. Thought so. Fantastic. Awesome, man. All right, well, have a great night. Good luck with your practice. And yeah, keep saving those replays and stuff. I think these ones were really useful to get us started today.
Awesome, yeah, will do, man. Thank you again. See you next week.
See you next time. Bye, man.
All right. Peace.
Good stuff. Hopefully this coaching session